All right. Hello, Get Geek New York. I'm Ross Rubin. I'm principal analyst at Reticle Research. We're a technology market research firm. And for the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to talk to a couple of companies that are doing very cool things with television. 40 minutes is about the length of an hour-long TV show if you skip the commercials. So I think that's pretty appropriate. It's my pleasure to introduce someone I've had the pleasure of knowing for many years, Jonathan Steuer, who is Chief Research Officer of TRA. And Jonathan, you want to tell folks what you do?
Yeah, I'm the Chief Research Officer for TiVo and TRA. And TiVo, you guys know, makes awesome advanced television devices. We invented the DVR. And TRA is a division of TiVo that takes some of the anonymous viewership data we collect from those DVRs, and we match that anonymously with data from other sources to find out interesting things about who watches what TV shows and how they watch them.
How many people here have a DVR at their home? Show of hands. Okay.
Better than average.
Very good.
Not surprising.
Great. All right, so Jonathan was kind enough to share some data with me from their very rich archives prior to the show. And one of the things that stood out was that among TiVo households, about 40% of the shows that households watch are time-shifted. In other words, they're watched off the TiVo, and I thought this was pretty interesting that it has stayed pretty consistent over the past few years at that percentage.
That's right. It varies a lot by genre, though. So some shows are more heavily time-shifted than others, and some have higher commercial retention rates than others. So dramas tend to be the most heavily time-shifted, news shows the least heavily time-shifted. One thing that people have found surprising is that sports are actually time-shifted a lot more than zero. And ditto for reality TV. The sort of conventional wisdom is nobody ever does that, but they actually do it a significant amount.
Yeah, absolutely. According to the numbers you sent me, about 25% of the sports programming is time-shifted. Now, that's relatively low. I think that was the lowest category you were tracking. But yes, it's still pretty significant.
And again, if you ask people, do you ever do that? They say yes. But if you ask people in sort of the sports industry whether people time shift sports, they say, no, of course not. It must be live.
Right.
So,
And another thing that you mentioned in the data was that season pass, where you can record a whole season worth of shows set as sort of an automatic recording, is the most used feature on TiVo. So
that's right. I mean, one of the things about TiVo is if you have it for any length of time, you sort of adapt your television viewing to make best use of the box. And we make it a lot easier even than most DVRs to record every episode of a show. And in fact, we've got a new version of that coming out. We recently added the ability to set season passes for a show far in the future. It used to be you could only do it 2 weeks ahead when the show showed up in guide data. And, we're continuing to work on that because as people are looking at TV more as a catalog to explore, as watch a whole season of binge viewing at a time, we want to make it easy for them to do that.
The binge viewing phenomenon is very interesting. It's, I love this idea. We've got a whole season worth of shows, and we're going to order a couple of pizzas and get this done. It's very, very productivity-minded sort of approach to TV.
I don't know if you came by our booth at CES last year, but we did a 87-hour binge viewing Guinness World Record. And I have to say the guys who watched TV for 87 hours were not in the best of shape when they finished, but they made it to the end, and they did consume a tremendous amount of caffeine. What we find is, I wrote down or digitally wrote down the numbers, 91% of TiVo users report binge viewing at some point, and we define that as watching 3 or more episodes of the same show in a day. And 33% reported doing it in the last week. And we thought that was incredibly huge. When we look at the behavioral data, it bears that out.
And when you look at some of the series that are binge watched, they're really some of the most critically acclaimed TV series. Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad. Is this how can networks or the content creators leverage this behavior a little bit better?
Well, I think they're continuing to push the envelope of making large blocks of their of particular programs available together. And we make it easy to navigate that because you can get the same program from Hulu Plus or from broadcast or from syndication or from on demand if you have it available. But I think the content providers are starting to think more about shows as a library. It used to be you only cared about a show as a library when it hit 100 episodes and you could go to syndication. If you look at what, say, they just did with The Simpsons.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was a great example of show every episode in a row and then start at the beginning again and show them all in serial.
And did you happen to collect any data of how many? Did anyone try to record all The Simpsons?
Well, the TiVo Mega hasn't come out yet, so I don't think any of our current devices have enough space to hold them all. But I will say, against my better judgment, my 9-year-old is now binge watching The Simpsons, 3 episodes at a time. So,
well, and that is really talking about the value of binge watching to the networks or the content creators. It is a way to expose a series to a new audience after its first run, right?
And to expose it as a complete work, which is great for the people making TV. There's a great comment by Kevin Spacey about why he loved doing
House of
Cards, because you don't have to worry about a cliffhanger at the end of every episode. And so I think it's, binge viewing it, and the people who are making it easier to do are also changing the content of television in an interesting way.
I wanted to throw out a question to the audience, and I think I got this right. Anyone want to take a guess at what is the most recorded show on TiVo? Anyone want to take a guess? Yes. What was the answer? Batman?
Mad Men was his
Mad
answer.
Men, no. I'll give you a hint. It's a comedy, and it's a geeky comedy. Big Bang Theory, bazinga. Okay. Also, I thought it was interesting that the top cable show streamed was The Daily Show.
Indeed.
And I thought two interesting things about that. One, Colbert was not in the top 10, which can't be helping his ego.
I thought about that. I have an explanation.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's true, but so the way our streaming works, you can only stream some shows in the home and some you can download to a device or stream out of home.
I see.
Comedy Central, because they make their content available on a whole lot of devices, doesn't allow downloading. So the only people who are watching The Daily Show or Colbert streaming are watching it in their house. I think they all go to bed at 11 and watch Colbert the next day on DVR. Or what, at 11:30.
Okay.
And watch Colbert the next day on DVR.
Okay.
So if you switch the order of the shows, Colbert might be doing okay again.
All right. Interesting theory. And yet, even though it's recorded so much, as you mentioned, Viacom does make it available for free streaming online. You have full episodes. You don't have to even authenticate as a cable user. So it is interesting that we see so much recording of that show.
That's right. And, it might be people who already had it on their season pass list, and now it's easy to pick up.
Another recent phenomenon that TiVo just put out a press release about today is multitasking. Actually, it's not such a recent phenomenon. It's been going on for a long time, but you've got some new insights on it. And one thing that I was struck by is how little of the activity that consumers are doing while watching TV has anything to do with the TV show itself. So.
That was the thing that I think I liked best about both waves of this survey. We did a survey of over 1,000 people the first time and about 1,000 people the second time about what they do while they're watching TV. And this is something that we're working on measuring directly, but it's hard to do. So survey is what we're going by. And what we found is though 47% of people reported TV being their primary focus, I forget exactly the number, but it's something like 5% did anything related to the TV show while they're watching the TV show.
Email, I seem to
and the number one thing that people do is email. So, Twitter, not so much.
Right.
And so even though people, I work sort of in the TV ratings business, and people have made a lot of a big deal about tweeting while watching TV, and there's huge prevalence of hashtags on TV shows. It seems like that's not used as much as you might think from the way people talk about it.
So, I think 2 points there. One, you said you do tend to see most of this activity during the commercials.
That's right.
Right, not during the live programming. And then I wonder, if perhaps some of this is just that the right solution hasn't been available. We hear so much talk about second screen and a lot of broadcasters and cable channels investing in this. What would be your suggestion to them about how they can increase this utilization, or even if they should?
Well, I mean, one thing that's tricky with the live participation is that it really only works if you're also watching the show live, and otherwise you end up in the world of spoiling, right? So if you're watching Survivor even on a half-hour delay, if you join the live Twitter stream of Survivor, you're going to find out who gets voted off before you see it on your TV.
Right.
And so making it easier to have synchronized experiences that can be synchronized whether or not you're watching the show live is definitely a big piece of it.
So you're saying we need to invent TiVo for Twitter. We need to delay everything on Twitter for half an hour so people can catch up on the show.
If you're trying to push Twitter as a way for people to interact while they're watching TV, I think it's not a bad idea.
Option. All right.
There's a startup opportunity for you.
Someone here. Anyone here can go ahead and invent that. I'll give up all rights to that.
If you don't call it TiVo, though.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't suggest that. Another interesting tidbit I thought was you noted that about a third of the TiVo or recorded shows are never watched. That seems a little sad, but it also raises the question: have we reached the have we extended capacity of DVRs beyond where they need to be? Especially with you introducing this TiVo Mega right now.
We've made our fridge so big that food is always going to spoil before we eat it. I think the study that we did about how long it takes people to watch a program, the thing that was interesting is we only looked out to 42 days because it was actually computationally really difficult to do. And we're repeating it and extending it now because what we found is, though 30% of the shows were unwatched after 42 days, about 1% of the remaining shows were getting watched every day. So the thing that we still don't know is if we look out to, infinity or how long it takes our analysts to get bored, what's the real number of stuff that never gets watched? And does the fact that people continue at some point to fill the pipeline with new stuff mean that the stuff in the back of the fridge does go bad?
Well, that does seem like the challenge, the constant influx of new fall shows and new discoveries, particularly as, even though you said some of those shows get watched, it was sort of a downward sloping, kind of.
That's right. And the cable operators are all now looking at network DVR as a potential solution, which to your point, that makes potentially everything available to everybody much more easily. Right. And, it's in the context of that actually that we're trying to figure out how long do people keep things around.
And actually that brings up a point I wanted to mention earlier, which is that according to your data, a much higher percentage of broadcast shows are time shifted than cable, a lot during prime time, which raises the question of whether prime time is really prime time anymore.
That's absolutely it's absolutely true that the most heavily time shifted shows are broadcast dramas and sitcoms. One of the things though that happens is people are still doing most of their viewing during prime time, but what they're doing is watching more shows than they could normally watch by both time shifting to adapt to their schedule and, to your earlier point, skipping the things they don't necessarily want to watch, which allows us to fit an hour into our 40 minutes.
Right. So we're getting down to the wire here. A couple things I wanted to ask about, since you were kind enough to drop a hint about season pass improvements. You noted that when consumers do look at second screens, they're looking for more meta content, more background information about the show. Is TiVo looking at doing more with integrating that into the TV experience or the companion app experience?
Well, one of the features we really love, and that I think is resonating more and more with consumers as our box can play content from different sources, is a feature called Explore This Show. And if you haven't used it, it's worth taking a look at. It'll let you, from any episode of a program, go into a list of all the seasons of that program, all the episodes of each of the seasons, get to the metadata descriptions and all the actors and all that stuff, and show you which of those episodes are available from any TV sources that are available to you. So it'll show you, this season's on Netflix, this season's on Hulu Plus, this season is available to record off cable, this season's available, in current release. And I think we get a lot of positive feedback about that, and so looking at ways to bring that even higher up in the user interface are things we definitely are looking at.
Okay, great. Any questions from the audience? I think we have made time for one. No? Okay. Let's see if I got anything else. Question in the back. You're going to have to speak loud. It's very loud here. Oh, we have a mic. Excellent.
So are there services like Crackle or Crunchyroll connected to that, or for the future?
Right now, we've got,
Netflix.
Let's see how I do. Netflix, Hulu, a couple other ones in that vein coming soon. YouTube and a bunch of ways to save YouTube clips, and YouTube is actually a really nice integration. We keep adding those as fast as we can, so if Crackle is one we should be looking at, how many people think so? I'll take that back to my team and we'll take a look at it. And there's also an Opera browser, so anything that's playable through standard web technology you can pick up that way.
All right, we are out of time. So, Jonathan, thank you very much for your time. Yes, a lot of fun.
Thank you very much, Ross.
My pleasure. Great job.
See you soon.